Cetulakarnamarjanam Bhavamahadavagninirvakanam Shriyakairavachandrakavitaranam Vidyavadujivanam Anandam Gurivardhanam Pratipadam Puranamritatsvaram Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Yeah, warm welcome to everybody else as well. Everybody here is essentially pretty much a part of the Sankirtan team in some way, shape or form. So thank you all so much for taking time to be here on this sunny Saturday morning. So this is the monthly Sankirtan festival, and we're not far from Gopala, arguably the most important festival of the year. And we're in the midst of the Be a Gardener campaign. So we're on a mission to distribute as many CC sets as possible. And today we have a monthly Sankirtan festival where we're going to be joined by many members of the wider Sankirtan community and other devotees who perhaps are trying Sankirtan out for the first time. We're going to be in Watford, so that will be lots of fun. And the purpose of this segment here is to hear from Gopala Raya Prabhu. We're going to be grilling him. I'm joking, we're just going to be interviewing him and trying to get as much nectar, empowerment and inspiration as possible, so that when we head out on the streets today, we're fully equipped and ready to share Krishna consciousness with others. And all of you guys will help. We'll have some time at the end of towards the end of the session to ask questions and debunk any Sankirtan myths perhaps. So that's going to go on till about 11:30, and then we're going to head to the streets. We're going to be joining the Sacred Street Party team. Hare Krishna. We're going to be joining the Sacred Street Party team who would normally go out on Saturdays from 12 to 4. We're going to be there at least from 12 till 2, followed by prasad and some reflections. And the idea is that we want to give devotees an opportunity to learn from the Sankirtan devotees that are here and be guided and assisted. It's a massive community effort. So that's the plan for the day. Just want to take some time to welcome Gopala Raya Prabhu, who I had the pleasure of speaking to over the phone a few days back. And
pleasure is all mine.
Gopala Raya Prabhu was born in Swansea. Anybody here from Swansea? Just you, Prabhu.
Just me.
And
we got Jack here from Watford. Jack's mother and father are going to be meeting us out there today, right, Jack?
Yeah.
So everyone on their best behaviour, please.
Nice. For those of you that might not be so familiar with Gopala Raya Prabhu, Gopala Raya Prabhu left to go travelling at the age of 19. He was in search of something a little bit deeper, looking to find the answers to life's unanswered questions, shall we say. And his journey took him to Thailand and New Zealand, amongst other places. And then he got a flyer.
This is like he was asking me on the phone, and I was trying to think, I think I was 19, and I think I went. So this is from my best memory. Yeah. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Oh no. Yeah, feel free to correct me, but we got a flyer and some books that were given by the Hare Krishna devotees, and so you got Isha Upanishad in London and Krishna book in Wales.
Yeah, I got a Krishna book 2 in Swansea.
Okay.
And I was thinking my initial thought was I don't really want to carry this book around with me all day. And I was going to put it in the bin. But I thought, I know. But I saw the pictures of Krishna and Balaram on the front. And then I opened it and thought, this is meant to be God. If I put this in the bin, then, you know what I mean? Life's hard enough as it is. So I kept it with me and put it on my bookshelf. And then when I got Sri Upanishad later then, that was the first book I read.
Uh-huh.
And then Sri Upanishad blew me away, and then it was and then I realised and then I started reading the Krishna book. And Krishna book 2. I started with the shortest chapter. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I looked for the next shortest chapter. And I thought, wow. And then I looked for the next shortest chapter. And I read the whole book like that, from shortest chapter to longest. But then I realised, but then it hit me, took me a while to realise they're about the same author. Srila Prabhupada, which is quite. I think anyway, yeah, that's right.
That's really cool. So I think something similar happened to Keshava Bharati Maharaj. He received some books from someone, and then as a gift, and then I think his landlady gave him some books as a gift, and then he just put them both in his bag and went to work or something. Then he realized, wow, these books are from the same author.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. So these books later took him to joining the Hare Krishna movement in 2009, and a couple of years later he received initiation from His Holiness Shivram Swami. And so he joined the ashram, and if you guys remember from previous Sankirtan festivals, Gopala Raya Prabhu consistently comes in the top 10 time and time again, and on various occasions he's won the marathon nationally. And right now he's a Sankirtan leader for Wales. He's the chair of the UK Book Distribution Committee, and alongside his wife he's created the CVA, Contemporary Vedic Ashram.
Contemporary Vedic Ashram, yeah.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing briefly what that is.
So that's so we've found that in Wales like absolutely essential. You know, we used to find like when I first joined, I just went into the house and that's where all the brahmacharis lived and other people, and it was like, so we found it for young men especially to throw them straight into the brahmachari ashram was too much. And to have this facility, so you have me and my wife, we live just on the top floor, and then you have like young men who either some of them work, some of them study. You have like Joe lives in the CVA, so he studies in university, and he actually heads up our university preaching. And then, in fact, I mean, Prajonya Gopa, he used to live in the CVA in New Zealand. And then we've had, you know, these boys here, Peter, Parthasaka, Ben, they've all lived in the CVA. Jack's living in the CVA now. So it's a place where they can like study, or they work and pay rent, or they do full-time service, and then it gives them time to then be with like-minded people, and then they'll give them some time then to, you know, work out who they are and what they want to be, and then they decide then whether they go to the brahmachari ashram or whether they go grihastha ashram and get married, but we found it essential to have this like stepping stone, because it's too much for most young men to think, oh, it's either brahmachari or bust. You know what I mean? I want to be a devotee. I've either got to join the brahmachari ashram or... So having this sort of facility, do you know what I mean? And having a grihastha couple run it as well is nice, because it lets them sort of like, you know, it's like a little home. And just look after them. Look after young devotees as they go through their little trials and tribulations. And actually with outreach, it's like, if you want to try and bring people to Christian consciousness, you know, it's hard work. You've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to live with them. You've got to live with them, deal with all the psychological stuff that we're all going through at the minute, you know? It's different. I remember His Day Ramita Swami was saying it used to be back in the late 60s, 70s. You know, someone who's a devotee who's coming to Krishna consciousness, say if they're like 18, 20, they had maybe a couple of years of like, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever, and then they come to Krishna consciousness, restabilize, and yeah, okay, I can, you know, what was it? What's the name of I think it was Rameshwar Prabhu. He was just walking down the street. One Sankirtan devotee just goes, "Sarvadharma Pratyaja Mame Kam, surrender to Krishna, surrender everything to Krishna." Yeah, I should. You know, he just joins the temple, and you don't get that anymore. You know, so but now, you know, you're some young person who's coming. If they're like 19, 20, they've had like, you know, 5-10 years of just destroying ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Especially now with like, you know, I was lucky enough not to, do you know what I mean? Like when I was growing up, I didn't have like smartphones and stuff like that, but now it's, so we just have to realize how psychologically damaged your average, especially a Western youth is, you know, and then when they come to Krishna consciousness, you have to deal with that. You know, it's interesting how when, you know, the verse often gets quoted when Krishna says, you know, those who explain this message to my devotees, they're very, very dear to me. And my spiritual master saying, it's interesting when he says my devotees. So it's one thing to, Because that's the, you go out and you give someone a book, but then everything that happens after that, to take responsibility and say, okay, yeah, we're going to have to look after this person as they go through all the highs and lows of just trying to practice Krishna consciousness. It takes years just to stabilize a young person's mind, and then they can start practicing Krishna consciousness. So we found this contemporary Vedic ashram, or the CVA, something that's really, we found it essential, in actually bringing people to Krishna.
Thank you so much for. It's nice to hear about the other side of book distribution. What happens when someone gets a book and how you're looking after them and cultivating them and taking care of them. So I'm just sitting in front of this beautiful painting, photo, canvas of the bunch of Tattva, and they're walking, dancing in the streets, doing some Sankirtan. But they've got no books there. So I thought maybe we can start there. Like, if I can, just challenge you a little bit, if you don't mind, Prabhu. Why do we stress book distribution so much? I don't see any books over there. Isn't Harinam enough?
That's one of those, is it?
Just go for it, why not?
Yeah, I mean, so our sort of spiritual line is the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. Coming from Lord Brahma, a line of teachers coming down from Lord Brahma to Madhvacharya, Lord Chaitanya, like that. Lord Brahma is typically, this is in our booklet as well, and it's also, I think Ravindra Prabhu talks about in a family business. Lord Brahma, he's typically depicted with a book in his hand. Because he was in his prayers for creation, he was given the Vedic knowledge to engineer the universe. So he's the sort of, in this universe, in one sense, the sort of source of the Vedas, apart from Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. So he has, from Lord Brahma, that's why typically our Sampradaya is known as the Sampradaya of the book. And as time goes on, especially in recent times, you have the, Lord Chaitanya was said to have only written the Shikshastika, right? So, but then he instructed his followers to write books. You have Vyasadeva, he saw, because typically the Vedas were only spoken. You have modern people, sort of the modern view of history is, oh yes, if you look at history, if you see when humankind started to write things down, they say, well, that's when humanity became intelligent. But actually, it's the other way around. As soon as you have to start writing things down, that means intelligence is going down. Like, who's smarter? Someone who can work something out in their head, or someone who has to write things down? Do you know what I mean? So writing was manifested or created in order because those people's memories were just going down and down and down. So what was Shruti originally heard had to be written down. And then what was written down then that's where Vyasadeva started compiling the Vedas. And so now you have the literature that sort of manifests in this world, and that's written down. And then you've got so you have the Goswamis, they wrote many literature. Bhaktivedanta Thakur then famously sort of wanted this sort of mass distribution of literature, which Bhaktivedanta took it to another level, where he had he was really pushing the printing press. There's this in the first book distributors, what was it? It was Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Pandit, and Srivasacharya. Srivasacharya, yeah, Srivas. And so they were the first they had the writings from Jiva Goswami, and they had to look after it. And as Sankirtan devotees do, they lost it. So they were just saying, I've been I will tell some stories, but I've been in similar situations. But they found him in the end. But there's this. It's quite far out. We've got this. They used to report to Jiva Goswami their book distribution scores. phone, I won't find it, but there's, you have Narottam Das Thakur, he's giving the Sankirtan report of their Sankirtan party. Does anyone read this? Remember this? And he says like, oh, we did, I can't remember, we gave out this many such and such, this many, Bhagavad Gitas or whatever. And he writes, he says, but my heart is breaking because when one day I pray that I'll take birth in the future when the printing press is invented, and then we can distribute these books en masse. Do you know what I mean? So this printing press, so these things can be like widely printed and widely distributed, was something that even the early devotees sort of pined for. Even the direct disciples of the Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva. So much so that the Bhaktisiddhanta, he had the running of the printing press. He had it next to the deity room, because the sound of the printing press was such a nice kirtan for the deities. And so that was Bhaktisiddhanta. He wanted the literature to distribute widely, and then Srila Prabhupada, again, Prabhupada famously says, so we were in Radhakunda. He says that I was with Bhaktisiddhanta, and he said, better I sell this temple, sell the marble in this temple, and print some books. He said, I sell the temple, print books. And then Prabhupada said, therefore I'm stressing. Where's book? Where's book? Where's book? He said, therefore kindly help me. Can you print and distribute as many books in as many languages, distribute them throughout the whole world, and the Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. Most devotees I've met, their first contact with Krishna consciousness and spiritual life has come by receiving a book. Some special transcendental literature. Do you have our family business here? That book?
Whatever it is.
Maybe not. I'll read something. I was going to read that. But anyway, so this is what Srila Prabhupada sort of given us, the Hare Krishna movement, and he stressed the distribution of transcendental literature. So this is how the sort of word Sankirtan has become synonymous with book distribution. Because Prabhupada saw it like that. It's the Brihat Madanga. Mm-hmm. And I think, so just from my own experience, my most spiritual experiences have been giving out on book distribution. I've been fortunate enough to go into to Mayapur, to Vrindavan, do my spiritual mastery in different places, but the most spiritual experiences, I suppose Keshava Maharaj, Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj would say the same thing. It's been outside Marks and Spencer's or somewhere like that. Because I gotta tell a story that for example, it's just this, we've all had experience, but Shivaram Swami was saying, he was out distributing books one day, and every day you'd have someone who just stays on the street and just gives out extra books, just because you're feeling it, you feel electric, and give a few extra books. And so one day he happened to be the one staying back, and this family walked past, and he stops, so the gentleman, he stops, the family, the wife and kids, they carry on walking, and he hands them a Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1. So in the picture, it's got the lotus, and you've got Krishna, Radha Krishna, and they've got the spiritual planets. Jayapataka Maharaj said, you can learn more just by looking at the cover of Bhagavatam 1.1. Once you just, by the cover of Bhagavatam 1.1, you know more than the scientists and stuff like that about the universe and the way things are set up and stuff, So he says, he shows the gentleman, he says, this is the spiritual world. This is Radha and Krishna. This is where we come from, and this is where we have to go. The gentleman looks, and he just starts to cry. His wife and kids turn around, they're looking, and like Jeff, you've never been into this sort of thing before. She Swami says, your husband, he wants to buy a book on self-realization. And the person gives a donation, takes the book, and goes on. But the sort of experience of being a via conduit for when Krishna, like we said this morning, when Krishna is just in the heart of the living entity, saying, maybe you'll come back this life, maybe next life. So to be that experience of being that middle person, being used by Krishna in order to connect someone back to him. And like when Prabhupada was in India, Tamal Goswami was like, Prabhupada was so valuable to Prabhupada, especially as a secretary. If you're a secretary for Prabhupada in India, that was like, you were very close to Prabhupada. And, but Tamal Goswami was saying, look, I've memorized, all the legals, ins and outs of India customs and this, that, and the other. But verses of the Bhagavad Gita, I hardly know any. You wanted to go back and preach. Prabhupada reluctantly let TKG go. If you listen to 1977, these recordings where they just literally just put the press record and you can just hear like everything. Prabhupada speaking to this, then them taking care of Prabhupada, and 1977, it's just they left the recorder on, you can just hear everything. And you can see like how Tamal Krishna Goswami was, Prabhupada handed the running of the movement over to Tamal Krishna Goswami. I'll finish in a second. So to TKG, Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was preaching, Prabhupada was very stressed, he wanted Tamal Krishna Goswami back. This is in Servant of the Servant. Prabhupada goes back to America and he said he was going to say to Tamal Krishna Goswami, look, I need you back, come back from the West, just come back now, I need you, this is important. Tamal Krishna Goswami said, wait. And he just brought in the devotees one by one, the devotees that he'd made, like these young men who had just started practicing Krishna consciousness. They each put a flower at Prabhupada's feet, paid obeisances, and then stood in a line. And the next one came, and the next one came. And Prabhupada was just crying and just said, yeah, you carry on doing what you do. You know what I mean? There's nothing more valuable you can offer Srimati Radharani than a garland of conditioned souls at his lotus feet. And the best way to do that, I mean, when I got second initiation, my spiritual master said, a Brahmana preaches, and he said, Prabhupada said the best way to preach is to distribute books. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you managed to convince me. So it sounds like from what you're saying that it's very much the desire of Lord Chaitanya that these books go out, because he instructed his direct disciples to put this knowledge together and disseminate it in India, and now Prabhupada has come in that line and has asked us to distribute it all over the world. Did you say Narottam Das Thakur was desiring that he take birth in an age where the printing press was there?
Yeah.
That's quite something. And I'm just, in what you were sharing, I'm thinking about how we so often glorify this idea of how much book distribution helps others. But in what you said just there, you were speaking about how book distribution is such a boon for ourselves. And it does so much for our personal Krishna consciousness. Rasika Prabhu calls it high sadhana. And I wonder whether you could speak a little bit about that. How, can we make the most advancement by being on the streets doing book distribution? Is that really the case? What is there on offer on the streets in this service that's not on offer in any other service?
I mean, ultimately the service is secondary. Again, my spiritual master, he only asked a couple of questions to Prabhupada. One of them was, what service pleases you the most? And he was a book distributor, so he wanted Prabhupada to say, book distribution. Prabhupada said, all services please me equally. Okay, and he asked again, yeah, but, out of Harinam, Prashadam distribution or book distribution, what service really pleases you the most? Prabhupada said, all services please me equally. So they all have to be there. And Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam. There's, You go back and back to God by chanting the holy name. You know, by opening temples, doing Sankirtan, book distribution, you get mercy from Lord Chaitanya. And that mercy from Lord Chaitanya helps you chant the holy name. And it's chanting Hare Krishna, which gets us back and back to Godhead. But, so, I mean, you can, you know, speak to senior devotees or anyone who's, there's devotees they've done the service of GBT and spiritual master, deity worship, but there's just a special flavour that you get when you've given out lots and lots of books. So, I mean, some of us who've like done the marathon and things, you know, there's a certain, you know, when you really tried your best, there's a type of like satisfaction that's there. You know, it's undeniable. All the way home, you know, you're going to feel that Krishna, Prabhupada pat you on the back saying, well done, you know. It's just so powerful. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to, like, you know, I really want, you know, and under my voice, the soul's always looking for pleasure. And I remember first coming to Krishna consciousness, devotees were saying how, you know, they were, you know, you could tell like they were just coming back off book distribution and they'd just been swimming and splashing in just this type of like bliss and happiness, you know. And you hear that, you know, devotees who distribute the books, Krishna gives you a special taste while reading the books. And I was thinking, well, I want to taste that. And I didn't want, you know, I want to experience pleasure. I don't want anyone to experience something I'm not experiencing. You know, but it is, you know, anyone who's done it it is demanding. Do you know what I mean? A lot of us, I mean, I don't know, speaking for myself, like it was the most alien thing to do, to go to approach strangers and like introduce them to what is to them some sort of Hindu god. You know what I mean? It was like, that'd be but they said to Prabhupada, I said, when we give out a book to someone, there's a special feeling it just feels so nice. They said, Prabhupada, what is that? Prabhupada said, that's Lord Chaitanya embracing you.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all services to Dita Prabhupada, if you want to go out and get Lord Chaitanya's embrace, there's a type of, you know, the more the Panchatatva in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the more they distributed of a Godhead, the more the supply increased. So the more you go out to distribute. And that's the thing, now is sort of like, I mean, we've got a book distribution committee, we're a team. You know, I'm the chair this year, someone else will be the chair next year, you know, so I'm just part of the team, you know. And yeah, I've had Hare Krishna. I've had times where like I might have, you know, I won the marathon for whatever that's worth. You know. And different times, but then it's just me, is it? Am I speaking too much? If I'm speaking too much, just tell me to shut up. Thank you.
You're ready to come here to get from your service?
Well, I'm not the but you know, now like when we go out later, like I don't distribute so much books anymore. The boys tell it, like, you know, now I'm just, but I remember I used to try and win. I used to be so competitive, you know. This is my thing, or try and beat that person and that person, right? So my spiritual master said, look, it's all well and good you just beating everyone all the time, but you're Sankirtan leader. If your scores go down, the team goes up, you know. But sometimes, you know, it'll be like, but when I first came to Krishna conscious, you never think like, yeah, I want to win the marathon, or I want to be, it doesn't seem to come into your head, you know. So sometimes, so Krishna's very like, you know, he's very close. When you're on Sankirtan, he's very close. Like they're very involved. You know, so I remember, so sometimes I'll just, why am I giving out any books today? And, you know, I used to like, it became so, I used to like tally up like my score. Like, okay, I've done £10 and, you know. But after a while, but then you meet someone and you realise, you know, you meet a special soul and you think, that's why I wanted to do this, you know? It's not about the scores or, you know, because Krishna doesn't need the Lakshmi. You know what I mean? Chintamani, what's the first? Chintamani, Lakshmi said. Lakshmi says, yeah. Lakshmi Satya Savrasi Vimanam. Govinda Purusham Dhamam Bhajami. So he's surrounded by, you know, unlimited numbers of goddesses of fortune. Do you know? Like, again, I'll just go off on tangents, but you know, yeah, it's all good. You know, like this, just as an example. So this temple we're building now in Wales, right? Like, you know, His Grace Sankirtan Prabhu used to be temple president of the manor. Like he said, it is ridiculous how much Krishna is involved in this whole thing. You know, like we had, like every time, like throughout the whole time, since we had the, you know, we started off like a little restaurant temple in Swansea in Govinda's, and throughout the, and now we have like a place in Cardiff as well, but we've never had any money. Like we've always done Sankirtan, and we've only ever had just enough to make ends meet. You know, always lived hand to mouth. You know? So like we get this, you know, so we just decide to, so we have Tankanath, who's our temple president. His spiritual master says, you know, build a temple in Cardiff, look at the building, don't look at the price, just look at whatever the building is, wherever the building is, you should go for it. And he had devotees, senior devotees, well-wishing devotees saying, you can't do this. You don't have any money, you don't have, you know, you don't have many devotees. And he's like, yeah, but Guru gets what Guru wants. You know, if Guru wants it, then I just have to do it. You know? So he gets the building, we find the right building, and it just so happens then they own the building and this building next to it. It's prime real estate in Cardiff Bay, which is the place to go in Cardiff if you visit. Tankanath Prabhu just says, so there's, oh, you own next door? Let's have next door as well. He just chucks it in there just as a joke. She goes, yeah, okay. You know, so then we have no money, but the rent from because there's a nursery next door, their rent pays for the mortgage of the building. Tankanath's just going into like the council to get planning permission, bumps into a member of the Swami Narayan community, and they recognise, oh, Tankanath's in Doti and Tilak. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just getting planning permission. Oh, I happen to be, he happens to be one of the top construction, what do you call it? Like, Builder, yeah. One of the top builders in the country. Right, he's headed like constructions of like, you know, being like, you know, site managers or whatever, like of like Bristol University building and things like that. And so he's willing to be our, like the sort of project manager for free. Wow. You know, which has saved us probably hundreds of thousands. You know, so he's offered all his services for free, and just everything's just been happening, just miraculously. Do you know what I mean? When Tankanath started the temple in Swansea, first of all, he had no money, but he just started like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And he just started knocking walls down, like Krishna, the money will come somehow. And it did. So this idea of jump first, and then the net will appear. Now, how Lord Chaitanya always backs him. Krishna has never let anyone down, ever. You know, Yogi Goswami Vamyaha. You know, whatever lack there is, Krishna says, I will carry. You know, you can always be certain of that. So if you wait till everything's there first, and then move, then sometimes you'll just be stuck in the same place forever. Mm. But to really like, okay, I'm going to take a gamble. You know, Shamasundar says that in, I think it's Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. He said, we just relied on Krishna, and we're just like, you know, we're just going to do stuff and almost force Krishna's hand to perform miracles. You know? What's the time where they're looking for like, oh, we can't pay the rent, and then they just see money floating down the street. You know? Or, you know, like Crystal Maze, like, you know, and they just, and it's like exactly the amount they needed. Stuff like that happens. You know, so you like almost want to go out there and just force Krishna's hand, force miracles to happen.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the perfect Sankirtan philosophy.
Mm.
That we're not calculative, we don't have to be like textbook devotees or very scholarly. Just remembering there's a couple of letters that Prabhupada sent to various devotees. He was speaking about how in the 1930s, Bhaktivedanta Manor sent one Maharaj to London to preach, but one Maharaj didn't meet with any success and he was called back. But later, in the late 60s, Prabhupada sent these 3 couples, and he described them not to be very well versed in Vedanta, not very scholarly, but they just had a sincere desire. And as a result of that sincere desire, well, all of us are here, because from that one temple in London, everything else you see in the UK has sprung. So I really appreciate what you're saying, that we can really at least test out this philosophy when we're on the streets very, very easily. What did you say? We jump first, then Lord Chaitanya's net will follow.
Yeah, it's not just
Yeah.
jump. Okay, but catch me first.
Mhm.
You know.
Mm.
I mean, that was far. You know, you can imagine like Shamasundra's plan was, I'm going to go to the UK. I'm going to meet the Beatles, and that's his. You know, like we don't.
Almost bizarre, isn't it?
We don't have anyone who's as famous in this world at the minute as the Beatles were then. You know, like that's just, but, you know, it's like me saying, right, what's your plan, Gopal? Right, I'm going to go to America. I'm going to meet Taylor Swift. I'm going to make her a devotee. And that's my plan. And I'm like, Gopal, that's crazy. But, you know, when, you hear like, when Prabhupada sees Bhaktivedanta, like he says, first thing Bhaktivedanta says, you should go preach in the Western countries. But you heard one of Prabhupada's godbrothers said, Bhaktivedanta, he was giving everyone that instruction. He said, it wasn't only your Prabhupada. Bhaktivedanta was telling everyone, go preach in Western countries, go preach in the Western countries. But he said, what's almost more amazing is that Prabhupada is the only one who did it, actually managed to do it. And that's the thing, there was one festival, this is after Prabhupada left, and one of Prabhupada's godbrothers he was like, I think he was, you know, they tried to treat him nicely, but then they sort of like put him in a room and forgot about him. And they did the festival, and then afterwards they came back and was like, oh, you know, sorry, we forgot about you. And he said, no problem. He said, the uncle doesn't take very seriously the offences of his nephews. And so it's okay. And he said, we didn't know who your Prabhupada was. He said, we were too close. And he gave the example, just like if you were, you know, he said, just like if you're standing on a mountain, but the further you go away from the mountain, the more and more you realize, like, the scope of it. So he said, we're too close. But he says, as time goes on, he said, we're starting to see more and more who Prabhupada was. You know? So devotees who started the temples in London, and even the devotees now that we rub shoulders with, you know, over time, like we don't see who each other are, but over time it's like, you know, that's the thing, we're trying to, you know, plant trees that we won't sit under the shade of. You know, trying to be real pioneers. I used to wonder really, Prema Raya Prabhu, he used to really take me out in Sankirtan, really look after me. You know, really, he's one of the devotees who looked after me more than anyone, you know, besides maybe Tankanath Prabhu and Krishna Sharani Mataji. But he really like taught me on Sankirtan and deal with all my, you know, issues and stuff. And I used to be real difficult to deal with, still am. But he is, he was also very like quite well read, and he liked Shakespeare. And he used to quote this, I don't know, some play, someone I don't know. But used to know, it's called The Battle of Agincourt. And he used to quote it, but it was quite like poetic. And something, the speech was something like, you know, history will talk about what we've done today. You know, history will talk about, you know, Rasika Raya Prabhu and his great efforts, and the, you know, Guru Shakti Prabhu and, you know, Pujanya Gopala Prabhu and Partasaka, and, you know, what they did in order to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. But he said, what history won't know is the relationship that we forge amongst ourselves during this time. It's that idea of, also the relationships that formed in devotional service and the fire of sacrifice. They also are something they're the things that are really special. I often think, I was looking for God, but then I found a family.
Well,
And I think speak to senior devotees, and they when His Grace Navadvip Prabhu used to, he's always on the Bhaktivedanta cart, and big black-bodied devotee. And he was telling me, there's devotees that he was doing service with for years, and I haven't seen for years, but as soon as he sees them, there's like an instant connection. So I think that's and that's something that's really, really valuable. And, and I'm not the best Sankirtan devotee anymore, but just the relationships of just going out and just trying to do what we can in order to serve Lord Chaitanya. I sort of feel, and that was always my mood. Sometimes I just, sometimes I just hated going out with Sankirtan, but hey, I gotta do this because this is it's like a sense of duty. And from duty, there comes real love. From duty come the seeds of love. Because if you feel like doing it, but, there's one thing, if you don't feel like doing it and you do it anyway, then Krishna's like, why are you doing that for? You don't want to, when you first come to Krishna consciousness, you enjoy going to the kirtan and you enjoy doing this. But all of a sudden, when you have to do something you don't want to do, then Krishna says, okay, you were doing this, but why you don't want to do it, but you're doing it anyway? Why are you doing it for me? He says, Krishna, I'm doing this for you. It was going well, or it was going badly. Krishna, I'm doing this for you. Yeah. So.
Thank you, Prabhu. When you were speaking, I was like, Gopala Raya Prabhu was selling this really well. And then I was thinking, well, wait, actually, no, he's not selling it because this is Lord Chaitanya's master plan. This is so much in the fabric of everything that we are as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that this book distribution is just our identity. And it reminded me what Bhaktivedanta Prabhu used to say. Don't think you've got a better idea than Lord Chaitanya. And so now that we're pretty much convinced that this is the way to go, this is where we experience Lord Chaitanya's embrace, the special taste in this, and this is the prime benediction for this age, the method by which we'll be able to expand this movement and please Guru and Prabhupada. Now that we know this, what do we do when we get out there? Because it's in one sense, although it's the most natural thing to us, until we go out there and try it, it's the most alien thing also. So at this point, I thought it would be nice. We've got about half an hour or so left. It would be nice to open up to the devotees in the assembly and see what maybe practical questions they've got. And I think it would be good to hear from as many devotees as possible. So maybe, if Prabhu, you can just deliver the punches. If that's okay.
Physically? Yes. Metaphorically.
No cameras in. I think we've got a cordless mic, is that right, Ram Lakshman?
Yes.
Yeah. So perhaps if we could have that cordless mic made available. And are there any devotees here who'd like to ask a more practical question about book distribution, any challenges they face, anything they want to understand from Gopala Raya Prabhu? Now's a wonderful opportunity.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please accept my humble obeisances all glory to Prabhupada. So thank you, first of all, very much for sharing your experiences and your journey.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier that you yourself are a very shy person. Book distribution is completely the opposite. When you so how do you manage it, and how do you break it? How do you kind of come out of the shyness and speak to the public?
It's something that it's like when you go to the beach at first, the water's really cold, so you put your toe in. First, it's like that, but you just gotta, once you dive in, then it's like, okay, it's nice, I can swim around a little bit, and so it's just, and just from my experience, I don't want to keep, I keep talking about my spiritual master, just whatever. But he's also very shy, and he said, I had to realize I had to become someone that I'm not in order for Srila Prabhupada. And you start to realize people are actually really nice. Like most people are nice. And when you start to meet them, it's like, it's just have such a, do you know what I mean? Like it's a real, I don't know, it's just, me personally, I'm shy, but I like people. And I think we just have to do our best. Like if water's a little bit cold at the time, you just have to dive in, you just have to ask people. Like I've asked, senior devotees, like His Holiness Devakamita Swami, I remember saying like, look, I like book distribution, but I'm not very good at it. He said, just be attached. Just try and get it. You just pray for attachment to the service. That's what it's like. His Holiness Ranjana Swami, he was saying when he first joined, he would, he used to hate going on Sankirtan. So when he used to go to bed, he used to try and stay awake as long as possible. Because he knew that as soon as his eyes closed, he fell asleep, he'd wake up, and it'd be the next day, and have to go on Sankirtan again. His Holiness Devakamita Swami famously, he said he hated going on Sankirtan. He hated going on book distribution, but he was determined to love it because it pleased Prabhupada so much.
Wow.
And he said, famously, he said, I remember telling us once, like, none of you had the experience I had of going out every single day for 3 years and doing nothing. I really like, one of my inspirations is His Grace Raya Prabhu. And he was one of the very successful Sankirtan leaders of Soho Street. And he's he loves book distribution. But he'll put his hand up and say, look, it's not me being humble. He said, I'm one of the worst book distributors. He used to go out and literally he used to go to all the rubbish spots, but he loves Sankirtan. He just loves it. But he doesn't do loads of books or anything. He said one time, he told me a Sankirtan story. And he said he was going out, he said all day he did nothing. He didn't do any books. So he thought, okay, maybe this is my Sankirtan story. Maybe I just got to do another hour. You always go out all day, don't do anything. But then in the last hour, they meet a special person. So still get another hour. That's another hour. Still nothing. Okay, maybe there's just, Krishna's going to reward me if I do another hour. And he just, this over time, he said, at the end of it, he did nothing. He just had to Krishna, what's going on? Just drag his book bag back to the train. But he said, but on the train, he was reading, I think he was reading either Chaitanya Charitamrita or prayers by Bhaktivedanta Thakur or something like that. And he said that reading went in so much deeper than it ever had before. And that was his Sankirtan story. That just going out and just trying all day, even not doing anything, he got such deep spiritual treasures and rewards from Lord Chaitanya.
Wow.
And Prabhupada was first giving out back to Godhead magazines in India before he came to the West. Not to mention when he first went to New York also. As we would say, he was getting smashed. You know what I mean? He wasn't doing big results or anything. And honestly, to do book distribution for any long period of time, you have to keep going past just the result. Has to be something internal. Again, a story from Rasika Prabhu, he was telling me, he won marathon. He was giving out books in one marathon. He said he felt like Lord Chaitanya was dancing behind him. And he sent a message to his spiritual master. He said, I feel like Lord Chaitanya is dancing behind me. If I have to, I'll come back next life and I'll distribute books for you also. The spiritual master said, no, just distribute books in this lifetime. I'll go back and better got it together. So it's just that internal universe that's available when we just, because if we just do look at the externals, there's devotees who've won the marathon one year and they've gone the next. And I used to really try to win the Prabhupada marathon. Literally, have the marathon festival, next day, no one cares. You know what I mean? No one cares. I asked, who won the marathon in 1994? Who won the marathon in 1999? Who won it in 2002? No one knows. Krishna cares. I hope so. But Krishna's got a different score sheet. Krishna sees the effort that devotees are putting in. Like I've seen devotees, they've won the marathon for a couple of years and then they're gone. But yeah, so honestly though, the way I overcame not wanting to go out and do any books and doing them anyway is because I thought, okay, this is pleasing the Prabhupada. This is what my spiritual authorities have asked me to do. And they've saved me. And if they've saved me, so therefore, like as Prahlad Maharaj says, my first duty is to serve him. What can I do? So when Jagan and Mary were chasing Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, Lord Nityananda, look, this isn't, in one sense Lord Nityananda was a bit, he doesn't have a duty to do, wild stuff. But he's like, but look, you've got Lord Chaitanya, he's the madman, he's telling us to do this stuff, So Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, they've asked us to do it. So therefore I'm going to give it a go.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very good, sir. Thanks, Gopala Raya Prabhu. Anyone else?
Or any reflections or give you a realization? Peter, what?
I just had a question. For those of us who do Sankirtan regularly, we see it as like in a dutiful way. This is my service. But where does the attachment come for distributing books? As spontaneous love for that service?
I don't know. That's someone else. I said, one day you'll see Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, you'll see the Panchatattva, you'll see them dancing down the street. It's like that, Krishna's in the mix. Desha Sam, Sam Vashtam Purti Puva Kamdami Buddhi Yogatami. Yetam Bhaktivedanta Manor. Krishna's very reciprocal. And so is Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And there's no, you see, what starts off, that's with duty is the seeds of love. And then, His Grace Adhoksha years ago, when someone says, how long do you have to do Sankirtan? How long do you have to do book distribution? You do book distribution until you want to do book distribution. But honestly, you look, the times of you doing Sankirtan, I was in the Brahmacharya ashram for 10 years and I've been fortunate enough to still be involved in the service and stuff, But you look back and they're just the best times. There's no better times in our lives, and you look back at the times when we were going out in Sankirtan. There's no worries, especially in the ashram. You've got no worries. Just have I got my book bag? Where am I going to Sankirtan today? No, good. People would, it's the kind of sort of, and it's just and even senior devotees, you look at the Prabhupada disciples now, they look back and the times when you were on Sankirtan, you're just the best. So, like that, but it takes, honestly, sometimes it takes some time. The whole thing of the further you go, looking at the mountain, and you sort of realize more and more, you see everything in perspective. But that's the thing with the Sankirtan is you start to see it with I was talking about the relationships, and as the relationships grow, then it's more than just the activity. It's okay, the person I'm doing it for, my spiritual master, the devotees, the Srila Prabhupada, Krishna. As you do the service, then that feeds into your sadhana and your chanting, and then you get more love for the service, and as in the very advanced stages, first you get attached to the service on the levels of Buchi. Then at Shakti you get more attached to Krishna. the person who's doing it. And it said when we all finally sort of going back to Godhead, when Krishna finally embraces us, when you feel that embrace, you look back on all the difficulties and troubles and hurdles that you went over, and you think, I would do all of that a million times over. What if this? I'll do it all again a million times. Yeah. Every day I'd be on the train to some Sankirtan spot. I'd just read Chaitanya Charitamrita on the way there, just read books, read Chaitanya Charitamrita on the way back. It's just nectar, you know? Go pretty much, there's just nothing there, and just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita and going out and Sankirtan.
Do I think?
Yeah. So not just me talking all the time.
What was your question again?
I was wondering where the love and attachment for book distribution, where did that come about from doing it in a dutiful way?
No idea.
It's honest.
But if I can say a little something, I think the times when you really, really, really don't want to go out on books, and you do it thinking about Prabhupada's sacrifice, thinking that this is pleasing to Krishna, then it's like Krishna naturally is going to be there for you. Krishna's naturally going to be enthusiastic to support you. And when you realize that Krishna is there because you made an effort for him, you're like thinking, wow, this is amazing. This is what love is. Okay, it may not be like the topmost rungs of Krishna praying, but that's love. I'm reminded of one of Prabhupada's personal servants who didn't feel like bowing down when he saw everyone else bow down. He was like, I think something like that, or then the group of devotees that are receiving Prabhupada, and everyone's dancing and chanting, bowing down, ecstatic, and I think Prabhupada's personal servant, he's noticing that he doesn't feel like doing that. And then later on he goes to Prabhupada, probably giving him a massage or doing some personal service to him. And Prabhupada said, I didn't really feel like, I didn't really feel the love and the ecstasy that they had. I don't feel that love. And then Prabhupada later on, he said that this service that you're doing, that's also love. So when we do something just because it's pleasing to the other person, that is love. And with Krishna, unlike in the material world, with Krishna that love will always be reciprocated. I had one nice experience recently where I hadn't been on Sankirtan for a little while, and I thought, life's getting busy, but I just want to make an endeavour. So I was in Paddington. I had some business in Paddington, and I thought, okay, it's come to the end of the day. I've got some books with me. Let me just do something. I just need to get my Sankirtan fix, Literally just went out for half an hour on my own, and I was really scared because it's been a while since I've done Sankirtan on my own. I just gave it a go, and it was one of the most blissful experiences ever. And I knew that Krishna was right there with me, just because I made that endeavor to go outside my comfort zone and do something for him. And that's Krishna showering you with love. And then you feel like going home, like, well, I was going to do something for Krishna. Maybe I want to chant an extra round, I want to read about him. And then in that almost competition, in the CC we see this description of Radharani and Krishna having competitions. If Radharani notices a different quality in Krishna, and Radharani's like, wow, that's amazing. And Krishna notices that Radharani notices, so he's like, oh my God, let me just display more of my opulence. And it's like backwards and forwards. And so in a very, very, in my case, a very diluted and small and minuscule way, and I think that's available for all of us, if we just make that endeavor to do something that Krishna wants, Krishna's going to shower us with mercy, and we're going to feel inspired to do something more for him, and it'll just go backwards and forwards like that, and that's love. And then eventually we'll be at the gates of Goloka. And Gopala Raya Prabhu would of course be ahead of us. It's nice. It's nice how that's
Rasika Raya Prabhu threw me a leg.
I think the most of those will be there. It's nice how that's sort of available to all of us on the streets today. There's no disqualification in that sense. Yeah. And just if I can add to Prabhu's point, speaking about when you're shy, and I was thinking a lot of people have different excuses when I speak to them about saying, oh no, it's not really my thing, or I'm really shy, or I've got this and I've got that. But I'm just looking back at the devotees that I've done Sankirtan with. Like I've done Sankirtan with devotees that are dyslexic, that have got autism, that are really, really old, that are really, really young, that, you know, on a material level, we can put so many excuses forward that suggest that we're unqualified. But with the Sankirtan movement, which is our family business, for Lord Chaitanya, there's no disqualification whatsoever. We just go out there and just put our neck on the line, and the net, like you said, will appear. And that's love.
It's like,
Matthew's got a question.
I like to feel about my experience. When I started, I found myself in quite a competitive world, and I didn't expect that because I thought I'm a people person, I can do it. You know, I went with positivity, commitment, perseverance, and thought about Prabhupada, what he's done. And then I found that it was highly competitive actually. People, how many did you score today? How many did you score today? And it was like that. And I was in that competitive world myself. You get caught up in it in summer. And then suddenly we had a break because we didn't have the book table anymore. And I started coming out with you guys. And I just let go. And I think, you know, this is not the way you should be. And I start being ordinary and simple and meeting people at their level. And it really is a payoff because that's where you get the joy and you want to keep on doing it. And it's really nice. I'm the oldest one there. You're talking about age.
Wasn't talking about you.
I'm talking about me. But you know, it's so joyful going out in the public and reaching out to people. And they're from all walks of life, and you hear stories that you could cringe. But you know, if you can reach out and be kind to people and listen, all they want is for a listening ear sometimes. And they take books and they come again if they can't do it at that time. And I think it does work. You just be yourself, just be. Chill out, be nice, be kind, and you can't go wrong. Thank you.
I would like to say something. Is it okay?
please.
Yeah, my name is Shyam Sundar Das. Yeah, I've been associating with Chopati devotees since 1990s. So I was a book distributor when I was in the ashram in Chopati, long time ago. So we used to do lots of books and we were number one in the world. But off late now, in the last 20 years, I was not doing book distribution like he said. So on Bhadra Purnima, I met Prabhuji on 17th of September, and he was on the stall and he told me, what are you doing? So I had come over there for Bhakti Charu Maharaj's Vyas Puja on 17th of September. So he told me, can you just stand over here and try to sell some books? And what books? He said, it's a whole Bhagavatam set. So I said, wow, Bhagavatam set, I would have said. So after such a long time. And I also was number one in 96, 97. So I said, okay, let's give it a try. And one Mataji came and she told me, can you do a Havan for me? I said, what? I'm distributing books. And he said, yeah, you go and do it and tell them that the fee of the Havan is you to buy a Bhagavatam set.
Yeah.
Okay, he pushed me. And then I talked to the Mataji and we done a Havan, a small thing, puja. And I told them, can you do this? He said, yeah, why not? And I was just standing over there. He told me, why don't you sponsor a Bhagavatam set? So I told, okay, what do I have to do? He said that we send it to India and it's half price. So then I did sponsor one. And then another person came and he told me that, can you do another puja for us? Because somebody told us that you've done one puja. And I said, okay. But before that, I just told them that can you sponsor a Bhagavatam? I said, for what? Because that is the free. I said, okay, I'll do it. So we just said 3 sets Bhagavatam on Bhadra Purnima. And he said that now you go back home, back to Godhead.
I
Thank you.
got another question that came in a little earlier.
Uh-huh.
So I guess
You're a smooth character. You're smooth. He's very smooth, isn't he?
Devotee says, I recently heard Rasika Prabhu talking about how the mind often rebels against going on Sankirtan, but he would find ways to trick the mind just to get out on the streets. I wonder if you, Gopala Raya Prabhu, have a similar experience and what your strategy is to overcome any lethargy that might be there, any blocks that are there in getting out and preventing us from witnessing the magic.
I mean, yeah, I think Rajesh would talk about similar. He's got his little techniques. I mean, honestly, I just drag my mind kicking and screaming. You know? But like I said before, my thing is like I always have, you know. That's also like I was sort of like it's my service. You know, so I see it as my service to, you know, go out and Sankirtan. There's days where I'm like, okay, yeah, it's my service days, and I just like, okay, this is just what I got to do. You know, just like you got to work, you got to do this, that, and the other. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know how often you have to go to work? You know what I mean? You don't really want to go. You know, you just have to drag your mind because this is my duty. So similarly, we work that hard for Maya. We should work at least that hard for Krishna. You know? And yeah, sometimes it's tough, you know, but when you get back home from work, it's not, when you get home from a day's work and be like, yeah, I feel fully refreshed. And you know what I mean? You're tired, you know, you're just, you know, it's been, but if you can work at least that hard for Krishna. And yeah, especially like, you know, when you go out and Sankirtan, you find different ways to do it. Some do door to door, some do the street. Sometimes the street is like, you know, like the Lion King was wildebeests. It's like, just trying to stop people, but yeah. In Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada goes to, well, Krishna goes to different kinds of austerities. And one of the austerities of the mind is satisfaction. Because the mind is always disturbed, so it's austere for the mind just to be satisfied. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that one should train the mind to be satisfied by detaching it from sense gratification. And Prabhupada says you detach the mind from sense gratification by training the mind to always think of doing good for others. So that's how to make the mind austere is to make it satisfied. How do we make our mind satisfied? You train it to always think of doing good for other people. And that's something that even like material psychologists will say, you know, if you feel depressed or whatever, start thinking of doing good for others. So even if we can just preach to our mind, you know, like Manashiksha, you know, speak to the mind, like, okay, you know, whatever's going through, but I'm just, you know, I'm going to go out and Krishna, whatever happens, but I just want to try and do it for them. You know? So that would be like something I try and at least train the mind to at least try to always thinking of doing good for others, and that's how you start to become peaceful and satisfied. So. That's something. Was that an online question from someone?
I know I asked our team earlier.
That's my question.
Okay.
I also have another question. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This has been such a connective-filled session for me, and I feel like I've gained so much food for thought and inspiration. I liked one of the first points you were making about the community you have in Wales is that when we try and make devotees, we have to also deal with what they come with. And I feel that I've made lots of contacts through book distribution. There's special souls that I feel like will come to Krishna consciousness. And my phone is full of them, but I'm not really doing anything about it. So maybe if you can provide a mindset shift or what the next steps could be to reach out to those people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just, Manasahu Sahasraku Kashchiketi Siddhaya. It takes a very rare person to come to Krishna consciousness. And, many millions of people might be, so you're looking for those needles in the haystack. And, so when you find that person could be ignited in Krishna consciousness, then you give them attention. And making devotees devotee association is the thing. And we just think of excuses in order to give people devotee association. But it's like the Mahatattva, the material ingredients, they don't do anything until Vishnu glances at them. So we have all these, a lot of us, we have all contacts in our phone. We don't do anything, just go to look at them. And you just do what we can. We invite them to whatever. Wales, we might have a boys' night, or you do this, that, the other, or just invite them over for pizza, or you just give them some excuse just to be with devotees, And you just give everyone, again, another one of the devotees was asking their spiritual master about book distribution, and he said, at least just be attached to giving everyone the opportunity. Try and give everyone the opportunity. And there might be, so you look for those, pay attention, and you look for those special souls. And then that, pray to Krishna and you'll find them. If I get a car, if someone gets if I have a Skoda, I start seeing Skodas everywhere, If I get such and such got this car, I'm just starting to notice them everywhere, Whatever's in your consciousness, you start to notice. So if we're paying attention, like Krishna, please, I want to find these needles in the haystack. You just find that person, and then you just give them as much attention and love as you can. Whatever happens, happens. But then after you can give devotees lots of love and attention, and then they can just sometimes they just go off and or whatever. It is it takes a lot of the Bhaktivedanta say it takes gallons of blood in order to try and make it devotee. Or as Vishnu Bhagavad say, gallons of blood. Or try and bring someone to Krishna consciousness. But you just look for the but that's what I say, you got such a nice, you got wonderful devotees here. Bhaktivedanta Manor. Nice. You've got a lovely community. There's someone there trying to ring. I'm trying to speak to a devotee. And then you got nice, from what I can tell, nice devotees, nice relationships, just giving out to others. You might go ask them how you doing. And just lend a ear. Matt, as you were saying, sometimes just listen to people. I did a course in the GPC, my tank was doing it, so I wanted someone to do it with because he doesn't want to go to school alone. So it's it's a zonal supervisor course. So one of the things we had to do was we got into groups and you have to do what's it called? Reflective listening, right? And it was just, so I was teaming up with this Mishrani Devi Dasi, so she's part of our yantra, and she's a good listener normally. So you had to tell them a problem, you had to tell them a real problem, and you just had to repeat it back to them.
Just go repeat it back to them.
Just go repeat it back to them. And he's smooth. And I thought, this is easy enough. You know what I mean? But so you're used to someone telling you something, and you're just okay, after this, I got it now. I know what I'm going to say to them, I'm not going to reply. But she was speaking, I was I got to just, whatever she's saying, and I was listening, at least I thought I was listening. And then it was okay. And I realised, I can't repeat it back to her, because I wasn't really listening, And it just, I was I never listen to anyone. I just realised, And then I had to tell her a problem. And it was a real problem. It was something that was, in my heart, and I just thought I'd just speak to her about it. And then she listened well, and she just repeated it back to me. And I was problem shared is a problem halved. They didn't offer the solution. I'd been listened to, Like Krishna, he just wants to be heard in the Bhagavad Gita. He just wants to be, just give him a chance. You know, like Prabhupada says at the start, at least, you know, just at least theoretically accept Krishna as God while you're reading the Gita. So you just hear, you know, so I was like, wow, I was heard, you know, and it just made such a difference. And sometimes you meet these special people and they just want to be listened to. And we just lend a ear and just, you know, listen to them. And, you know, because people are so, like, do not underestimate this. People are so lonely. You know, like, I think, and they're crying out. But, you know, like, you know, a lot of us in devotees, you've got a community around you of people who are all looking after you and care for you. People out there would kill for that. You know, they would kill for such a thing. So we know people, we might have met them on Sankirtan, or we just know them just in our lives, and they're crying out for what we have. So let them into this loving network of Lord Chaitanya. Is that okay? Some thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you, Gopala Raya Prabhu. Well, it's come to that point in the program where you've got a big dilemma, and one dilemma is to carry on with this wonderful sangha,
So get out
which is full
there.
of so many jewels, and the other dilemma is to stick to the schedule and go out and do something with all the jewels that you've collected. And I feel like this painting in front of us is like a window. And we've just spent some time in Srivas Angan. We've been having a nice internal nectarian chat, equipping us so that we can get out there and share with other people.
That's what I was at Shiva. Radhanath Maharaj, she was saying, telling the story where they were doing kirtans, not true, you know, kirtans, and then at one point it started to really build up, and Srivas Thakur, he's just shouted out, "Let our family increase." And then they started to go out and spread the holy name everywhere. So it's let on.
Shall we shout that now? That could be.
Okay.
What are the words?
Let our family increase.
Okay, we'll do it on 3. All of us.
1, 2, 3, go, is it?
Yeah.
No, on 3.
On 3, so that.
Everyone wait.
I'll count you guys down and we'll do it. The words are, let our family increase.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's do it with as much enthusiasm as we can muster. We want Prabhupada to hear it in his room.
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
3.
1, 2, 3. Oh wait, so you want me to count? You want me to count towards you? Fine, we'll do it your way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you all. Thank you, Gopala Raya Prabhu, for sharing so many jewels and equipping us. So many stories. There's so many nice stories to illustrate all the points. And Ram Lakshman Prabhu's going to put this up on our YouTube channel, and I believe
Well,
we'll
thank you
go
very
on
much
the
for inviting us.
UK
Thank you, Guru
Sankirtan
Shakti Guru.
thingamajig.
Thank you.
She's the real boss.
Thank you, Guru Shakti Mataji, for organising this. And in this room, we actually have so many very experienced Sankirtan devotees. So if you're feeling like you want to get some more guidance today, some assistance, then we've got Gopala Raya Prabhu's here, all the devotees from Wales. We've got Priya Gauranga Prabhu, Vinanath Gauranga Prabhu, Simran's here, Madhavdaita Mataji, who every year goes out with Guru Shakti Mataji for the marathon, just them two in the middle of the UK, just doing Sankirtan.
We often meet. But we
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Then my arch never says this.
This Chinta Prabhu's here. I think pretty much everyone in this room is an experienced Sankirtan devotee, so do take this opportunity to collaborate, learn from each other, shadow each other, and just have a great time on the streets. Everyone knows where we're going? No?
Watford, isn't it?
Watford High Street, we're going to be outside TGI Fridays. If I could have a couple of volunteers to, maybe anyone if you don't mind, and Priya Gauranga Prabhu if I can still use, just to help put the room back to how it was. Be very grateful. Other than that, we shall see you on the streets. Thank you all so much for being here.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution ki Nitai Gauda Premanande.
Hare Krishna, we're on the Watford High Street to do Sankirtan together, bringing the UK Sankirtan devotees together. We're having a great time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna! So I'm Abhay, Dr. Abhay from the Sacred Street Party and the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and today we're out in Watford for our monthly Sankirtan festival, which also includes the devotees from Cardiff. And since we are preparing for the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu today, we are trying to now reach out to the souls in Watford and try plant that seed by distributing them books and hopefully a Chaitanya Charitamrita set if the Lord allows.